All right, guys, today we're going to be going over the snatch. This is one of our more complicated movements, so don't worry if you don't get it right away. It takes a long time to learn the snatch, but I'm going to break it down for you guys into the 3 different starting positions and the 3 different landing positions, so you'll have a general understanding of kind of the whole picture. So with the snatch, we're going to have a wide grip on the bar. When you look down on your barbell, you're going to see the little strips. They're called knurlings, and you typically, for most people, you want your hands to be on the outside of the knurlings at all time. Also, the bar is going to be at your hip when you stand up. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the bar. I'm going to stand it up. This is just an empty bar. Now, one way to figure out where your hands need to be is you can lift your leg up like I just did and put that bar in your hip, and your arms should stay straight. If your arms are bent, then you need to widen out a little bit. So when you lift your leg up, your arms should stay straight. The bar should be right here at the hips. So the start position, I'm going to show you guys the muscle snatch. We're going to do it from the high hang position, or in the snatch we call it the hip as well, so we'll refer it to as the hip or the high hang. And then we're going to move into the hang position, and then lastly we're going to move into the ground, and the ground is always the mid shin, okay? So the high hang or the hip snatch looks like this. I'm just going to slightly bend my knees, shoulders right on top of the bar. I'm going to drive hard through my legs and catch the bar over the top of my head, locking my knees out. Okay? So that's the muscle snatch from the high hang position. Now, from the hang, and let that bar, I'm going to set my hips back. The bar stays on my leg, drive it down to the top of my knee. Now from this position, I'm going to scoop it back into my hip and then send it overhead, okay? So it's really important that you know that the bar scoops back into the hip. You should always make contact with your hip when you're snatching. So slide down, scoop back to the hip, and send it overhead. All right, from here, we're going to go to the ground. Again, the bar stays nice and slow till it hits mid-thigh, scoop back to the hip, and then right overhead, okay? So that takes a little bit to get, so don't worry about it if you don't get it right away. If there's one thing you need to remember, is just always bring the bar back to the hip, because that's where your power is at. If you let it float away from you, you're going to struggle catching it overhead. All right, guys, we just covered the muscle snatch. So that's basically when I'm dipping with my knees and then pushing into a straight leg. Now we're going to go over the power snatch. So the power snatch is very similar, but now we're re-dipping, and we're landing in a partial squat underneath the bar. That can be anywhere from just a slight squat to all the way where your hip crease is above your knee. That's considered to be a power snatch. I'm going to show you from the 3 different start positions. The high hang, or what we call the hip, the hang position, right over the top of the knee, or the ground, which is also considered mid-shin. Wide grip on the bar. Make sure that your bar is in your hip. We always want the bar coming back to the hip. So now I'm going to high hang position, dip slightly through my knee, shoulders right on top of the bar, jump and catch, and then stand. Reset my feet. Hang position, scoop back to my hip, jump, catch, and stand, and now the ground. Nice and slow till I get mid-thigh, scoop back, jump, catch, and stand. Whenever the bar comes down, it goes down the same way it came up. Keep it close to the body, just like so. When you guys are sending the bar overhead, we want to make sure we're not pushing the bar out and keeping our arms locked. Once we jump, then the elbows break. I almost like to act like if there's someone standing in front of me, I don't want to hit them with my bar. So it's jump, elbows break, bar comes overhead. That is a power snatch. All right, lastly, guys, we're going to talk about the squat snatch. So this is one of our most difficult movements. Again, if you're not quite there yet mobility-wise, just work on your power snatch when we have squat snatch days, and you can slowly work on your overhead squat and you'll eventually get this, but it does require some good amount of shoulder and hip mobility, so don't beat yourself if you don't have it right away. All right, so the squat snatch from the high hang or the hip position, I'm going to dip slightly with my knees, I'm going to jump and catch, and pull myself into a squat. Looks like this. And stand. Now from the hang position, scooping back to my hip, and stand, reset my feet, bar comes down, and lastly, from the ground. And stand. That is the full squat snatch. Again, the full squat snatch from the ground takes a while to learn, so just be patient with yourself. Your coach will help you along the way, but working on your overhead squat will definitely help you get into that full squat stance.